the show. They constantly stalked Diana while she was alive, and even in her death, it seems that they won't leave her alone. My first guests are Jack and Robin. They witnessed the paparazzi as they surrounded the accident scene moments after Diana's car crashed. Please welcome them to the show. Robin, I want to back up for a second. You and your husband and your son were on vacation in Europe, and you were in London for the week before this happened, right? Now, you obviously were leaving London. You came through. Did you drive through from London to Paris?
No, we took a channel. We went on the Eurostar.
Eurostar?
Right, from London to Paris.
If I was on a vacation, I think I would leave London on an absolute high.
And we were.
Feeling wonderful. And I arrive in Paris, and now I'm heading into a tunnel.
Right.
And it gets a little dark. And what did you see when you got in there?
Well, actually, our taxi driver was driving very quickly because there was no traffic at that point until we got to the mouth of the tunnel, and he hit the brakes because traffic seemed to all of a sudden stop. And you were kind of looking around. There's a little bend in that tunnel when you enter it, and we weren't really quite sure, but you had to assume something must be going on. And as we were starting to proceed further, you can see a siren, not a siren, a light turning around, and I said, oh, there must be an accident. And we were heading, I couldn't even tell you the direction because I don't know, but we were heading one way, and this accident was on the other side. And you couldn't really see it yet, but you just, from afar, just saw some action happening. And as we were slowly getting closer and closer, you saw an extremely mangled contortion of what was a car that was partially pushed up into the side of the wall of the tunnel, twisted glass, and a lot of action happening around this whole scene.
And at first, did you think that action was a rescue team or paramedics? Is that what you first thought?
That's what I thought.
That's what you thought. What did you see? What was starting to come fresh, come clear in your mind?
Well, I saw people shooting cameras and taking pictures, and as you were getting a little closer and closer, there was a policeman there, obviously trying to keep these people away, and one ran around him, the officer pushed one back, and one was laying on the front of the car, up with his back up against the side of the tunnel to get a picture on the windshield, and I'm trying to wonder, is this like the aftermath of something, and are they taking pictures for the paper to publish this horrible accident, thinking that there could not be anybody in the car? I didn't see anybody in the car at that time. And it was so unusual because we couldn't figure out what was going on. There was definitely a circus of cameras and people not obviously paying attention to the officer, which he was there by himself. This is before I found out that the ambulance had not come yet. We hadn't heard a siren yet.
This is before you found out there were people in that car. Jack, you see this now. You're starting to realize this is not paramedics, correct?
I thought, actually, that it was maybe the forensics department of the French police, and maybe this is how they covered a tragedy, and I said that to Robin, and she didn't really buy that.
Because I wouldn't think if it were forensics, they would be jumping around. I would have thought they would have been very careful and, you know, to
and I couldn't figure it out either. There were
How many people do you think it were?
I assume maybe 5 or 6.
Yeah, about that.
I mean, I didn't stop to count, but...
So for those at home, I want you to understand, they were one of the first people who drove into that tunnel moments after the accident took place. And they witnessed the paparazzi themselves, these photographers, not giving a hand or assistance to 4 people lying in an automobile dying. They watched these people jump around on the car against the wall, snapping photographs.
There was no way that you could believe there was anybody in that car the way they were behaving, because nobody attempted to do anything other than take pictures.
I have to take a little break, so I'm gonna hold you right here for a second. Let me take a little break, and when we come back, I want you to tell me what's happened to you since this has happened, because everybody now knows that the two of you were one of the first people who entered that tunnel. Everybody wanted you. And I gotta say, here's Montel. So I'm not gonna act like I'm so pious, but I will tell you this, that the reason why we're doing the show is not because I want to relive what happened with Diana that night. I want to do a show today that talks about what's going on. Is the paparazzi to blame for this? That's what we're gonna talk about today. Take a little break. Thank you so much. I'm gonna have you right here when we come back. We'll take a break. We'll be back. When we also come back, we're gonna meet Princess Diana's biographer, Lady Colin Campbell. She's here to share her thoughts about Diana's death. We'll take a little break. We'll be back right after this.
That I always believed the press would kill her in the end. But not even I could imagine that they would take such a direct hand in her death as seems to be the case. It would appear that every proprietor and editor of every publication that has paid for intrusive and exploitative photographs of her, encouraging greedy and ruthless individuals to risk everything in pursuit of Diana's image, has blood on his hands today.
We're talking today about whether or not the paparazzi had anything to do with the death of Princess Diana and whether or not we all share some of the guilt. I mean, people are saying there's blood on people's hands. Where does it stop? Even today, me doing this show, and I'm the one doing the complaining about what we have done, I'm playing into the same thing because I have Robin and Jack here. And the two of you have never spoken to anybody else. This is the first talk show that you've done. You've only done one or two other interviews, but they're hounding you right now, correct?
Correct.
Hounding.
There are people, I mean, you have become the celebrity now, in a sense.
It's so ironic.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
I was just going to say, people are, even in my neighborhood, they're saying, oh, you're famous. And I look at them and think, how could you call me famous? I just don't understand how people could call us famous because we witnessed an accident and that we reported what we saw to just go on record and collaborate what we saw that people were speculating about.
Let me clearly say this. You went on record and did a signed affidavit for the French government about what you saw, deposition, what you saw in that tunnel.
Yes,
yeah,
we did.
it was our civic duty to do it. We didn't do it until about less than 24 hours later after we witnessed the crash. Actually, we didn't know that it was Princess Diana until 12 hours later, so 12 hours or so, or 10 hours after we found out it was the princess. We were in a
Excuse me, I just have to interrupt, though.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, Robin, that's okay.
We didn't know who it was, and it didn't really matter at that minute because when we got back to that hotel after seeing what we saw, I was so sick, and my husband will tell you, I just couldn't sleep. And we had no idea who this one person was. Why exploit a person who's dying or dead, period? Why?
You know the pictures are out there right now.
You know, I only had heard that. I mean, I found out because I was so sickened by what I saw before I knew still who it was that the next morning I was telling the concierge at the hotel about this horrific accident that we saw, and we didn't really understand what was going on with these cameras and this policeman trying to keep somebody away and another one running around and running up to the car, and I'm explaining the scene and he said, didn't you hear?
Isn't this, before you say his answer to that, is it a gross exaggeration on my part to say that these guys were acting like animals, looking in the car,
no, you see,
looking at
no. You see an animal, excuse me 1 minute, when a child,
gotta let your husband in, Robin.
When a child falls in to gorilla's territory and the gorilla picks up the child for safety, that's an animal helping a child. So maybe an animal might have helped. So I wouldn't even put them in a category as an animal or a human. And as I said, how I feel about this is that there must be some other civilized or uncivilized, I should say, race dressed up as a human that are called paparazzi, because they are not human. They are lesser than an animal. An animal looks to help.
Okay. Please welcome Lady Colin Campbell to the show. She was a friend of Diana's, and she wrote a biography on the late princess called Royal Marriages. And Lady, should I say call you Lady? How do you do that?
Call me Georgia.
Call you Georgia?
Yes.
Okay, Georgia. But to hear this, and this was your friend. You spent time talking to her?
Well, I knew her, yeah.
You knew her?
Yeah, we weren't close friends, but I knew her, and I wrote 2 books on her, yeah.
But to hear this now, after all the time you spent chronicling her life, and to hear this is what happened to her in her end, what do you think of this?
Well, I must tell you, it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me. And I just want to commend the both of you for your civic duty and for being decent citizens and decent people.
Yeah.
And it's very refreshing for people like me who are in the public eye to know that there are actually decent human beings out there. Because when you've been hounded the way, say, the Princess of Wales was hounded, and very few celebrities are hounded to that degree, you really do need to know that there are decent people out there. It doesn't surprise me because the paparazzi and the irresponsible segment of the press, not the responsible, a small irresponsible segment of the press. And it doesn't surprise me that they would have seen the Prince, because they knew it was the Prince of Wales. And, you know, to them it was just a story. And I think a lot of the problem of the news reporting of her death, some of it has been wonderful, and I think the press should be commended for covering what is really a great news story very well. But, you know, there is also a very irresponsible, destructive element that has crept into this, and it doesn't surprise me.
And I don't want to be considered one of those irresponsible elements by sitting here and continuously blaming this accident on the paparazzi. Because the truth of the matter, in today's New York Post, Mr. Ray Kerrison makes this very clear observation. We can blame the paparazzi for what they did after. We can definitely do that because we have witnesses that saw them do what they did. But he says here, the cold, indisputable facts are that Princess Diana died in a car driven at high speeds by a hopelessly drunk chauffeur without even the proper license. At his side, this is what Mr. Kerrison says, was a security guard so utterly inept that he let them ride in this car without their seatbelts on. Still, the stars have learned nothing. If they had 1 ounce of gray matter, they might in the future ignore the paparazzi and check the sobriety of their drivers and the credentials of those people doing security for them.
Excuse me, Montel.
Yes.
I don't like to interrupt you.
Sure.
But let's go back further, okay? What about the people that served them or the people that saw them in the Ritz, at the Ritz? There is word that when we were in Paris that we heard that, I don't know if this, I have not even read a newspaper because I haven't had a minute to myself, that the people at the hotel knew that this guy had a history of drinking and that they knew that he was drunk, and that before the autopsy report was public, about an hour and a half before, that several people at this hotel at the Ritz called the medical examiner's office and told them that this guy was drunk. How did they let
Absolutely.
these people go into a car?
Absolutely. I do have to take a break. I'm going to get you as soon as I come right back. Can I do that? Let me take this break. I got to go to court. I got to pay bills. Let me take a break. We'll be back right after here. And we'll be joined by a member of the so-called paparazzi who's coming out to talk about and justify what he does. We'll take a break. We'll be back right after this.
Tonight on Channel 3.
Well, as we discuss this, and Georgia, I will ask you this question, though. What do you think the current climate is? And we're seeing the news here in the United States every night. We see people being interviewed on the streets in London, and they're saying, you know, that everybody's really angry at the paparazzi. But what's going on? And they're now, all of a sudden, last night, I hear they're getting mad at the Queen and Prince Charles and everybody else. They're just mad because he hadn't said anything yet.
Well, I think a bit of what's happening is a red herring. The fact of the matter is, had the paparazzi not been chasing Diana, and had they not hounded her for the 18 years that she was on the public stage, she wouldn't have felt the need to flee from them, and she would not have been fleeing. And believe me, I'm sure it's she who instructed that driver to go fast. Now, I personally don't think he should have been going that fast, but the fact of the matter is that if she hadn't felt the need to escape, and she had a history of jumping red lights and doing things like that to get away from the paparazzi, this wouldn't have happened. So let's cut away from all of the nonsense of all of us share blame, and let's remember who really is to blame. The people, if you took them out of the equation, this accident wouldn't have happened, or the paparazzi.
Okay, but now, when you say that, Georgia, I'm gonna say something later on about that, because please welcome Vinny, Ron, and Diane to the show. All three are photographers who shoot celebrities for a living in some ways, but they all do it in a different way. And the reason why I said I'm gonna make a comment about that is, but when the story broke about, you know, Prince Charles having the affairs that he was having, before that, Diana was not the worldwide public figure that she is today. Before that, she stayed demure, and as soon as the word got out that there's trouble in paradise, she jumped out to the press, and she applauded these people and all the paparazzi for taking her photo initially. Then they got crazy. Well, we know they got nuts with her. She's the most photographed woman on the planet. But she asked, just like myself and a lot of other celebrities in this business who start in the business, you need the paparazzi to take your picture because that's what makes you a celebrity. So when I go to an event and you guys are all lined up and you're saying Montel, Montel here, I must face Montel, Montel here if I'm in a public event. But when I'm in my backyard, you have no business to put a camera on me.
But that's a valid
but the one thing that is different here, and I don't agree at all with what happened there, and I do think that in some way, had she not been chased, she may have been alive. But the fact that you have to realize is that people, in general, don't want those pictures of those public events, the movie openings, those things. They want those stolen moments, and it's because of that. I'm not taking the blame off this particular situation with Diana. Putting that aside, the climate is for stolen moments.
We want that picture.
I don't agree with that. I think, may I say, I think that's utter rubbish. I think people want glamour. They want to feel that they are a part of celebrities' lives. They do not want trapped animal pictures.
But Georgia, hold on. But if that's how you feel, wait a minute. Vinny, I gotta let Vinny in here for a second. I'm gonna let Vinny, because if that's the truth, Vinny, you took some of these pictures. These are some of yours. Yes. Let's put this up. What is this picture right here? And I'll put it on the screen so everybody can see it. I'll hold it. Am I holding it okay so you guys can shoot it? Yes.
That's a picture of Sean Penn getting a little angry at the paparazzi for backing into his courtyard, which we did by accident.
And
excuse me.
Accident on purpose.
Like the photographer claims to have been taking the pulse and taking pictures at the same time. I don't know how you do that with two hands.
Oh, there was
yes,
one of the
don't tell me.
One
There was a photographer in Paris that is stating and is all over in the newspapers that his lawyer is representing him, that don't use me as a scapegoat. I was trying to help this woman. I was taking her pulse, but I happened to have a camera, so I was taking pictures at the same time.
Kind of tough to take a pulse with a camera.
Just as conveniently as it might have been backing up into somebody's home or whatever.
But Robin, hold on a minute.
It could be the truth.
Robin, hold on a minute. Let me make this point, though. But Vinny, this picture could have paid a lot of money, correct?
Yeah.
This one?
Yeah, that one.
And let's see this. Who's this?
That's the first shot I ever got of Sean and Madonna when they were at a nightclub.
Okay, wait. I'm going through this list of pictures for a second because you say they only want celebrities in a glamorous pose. How about this one right here?
That's Madonna and Michael Jackson went out for a dinner together
First time Madonna and Michael Jackson were going out together. Everybody in the world wanted to know, are they dating?
No,
Not
they
the
weren't
first
dating.
time.
We knew that, but they had the fact that they had no security. Madonna was trying to tell Michael, it's okay to go out. Don't worry. A couple of pictures is not going to kill you.
No, but that I think is acceptable.
But
that's obviously not chaste.
Okay, but wait a
minute.
minute.
The paparazzi have a right to take pictures.
What about this one right here?
As they leave a restaurant.
Here's Sean Penn going a little nuts with some paparazzi.
Yeah.
Okay, so now this picture.
Right after that shot, I was
someone would pay for this picture, correct?
Magazines ran that all around the world, yeah.
How about?
He made the news.
Let me go through.
He caused the news to run.
You see, what you just said is so key. Excuse me again.
You caused the news.
No.
No, we didn't cause it.
You are getting paid because somebody wants to put this in a newspaper. If the
public want to see it.
Okay, just a minute. I am part of this public, and I don't look at this trash.
Then don't buy People magazine.
I don't.
When you chase
Excuse me, I do not have any kind of subscription to any of these magazines, nor do I pick them up off of the stand. And there can be, I don't think that you shouldn't have to say that there's one way to do it or the other way, but there is a line. There is a line, and if you are a human being and you see a life possibly dying in front of your eyes, how do you not put your...
Why didn't you stop
We
and
had a
help her?
crazy French cab driver that wasn't paying any attention, that almost got us killed.
Hold on a minute. Wait. Robin, Jack, Vinny, hold on a second. But stop for just a second. Wait, but you can't blame them because he's absolutely right when he says what he's... You took a picture. Ron, hold on a minute. Ron, you were at a nightclub, a night that a tragic incident happened in America, correct? Mm-hmm. What happened that night?
River Phoenix died in October of 1993 at the Viper Room nightclub in Hollywood. And myself and another photographer were outside and chose not to take the picture. When
you tried to render assistance.
I went into the liquor store and asked them to call 911. And like a lot of people who are morbidly curious, the liquor store owner came out to watch. I screamed and yelled and begged and pleaded, and he finally went back in and made the call about the same time that River's brother did. Never once did we think about picking up our cameras. Now, I cannot imagine, I never thought this topic would come up again. I ran away, moved to Nashville, you know, have lived a quiet life since because I got so much backlash afterwards.
For not taking the picture.
For not taking the picture.
Here's River Phoenix laying on the ground, dying of a heroin overdose, and his peers slam him, because that picture would have been worth how much money, you think, on the worldwide market?
Say $250,000.
$250,000 of a picture. Now, let me just tell you something, and I'm going to tell you at home, something very shocking. There is, we all know that the photographers that took those pictures out there in the tunnel have been trying their best to sell these photos. There is one photographer who went through Germany who has contacted our show because he wants to take the price off these pictures. He forwarded the pictures to me. I have pictures. When we come back, to take the price off of this so no one in the world can pay a dime, I'm going to run them. We'll take a break. When we come back from this commercial break, you will get a chance to see those photos.
What?
We'll be back right after this.
Provided and paid for by the following.
Psychic Encounters is a great deal.
Call Psychic Encounters now for only 99 cents a minute. The number to call is
1-800-PREDICT. 1-800-PREDICT. 1-800-PREDICT.
Learn more about lowering your cholesterol with Quai garlic tablets. Call 1-800-92-PROOF. Quai, proven to lower cholesterol, proven for life.
Now, I'm going to tell you something. I wrestled with this last night. We've been with our lawyers all evening talking this out, trying to figure out whether or not this was right or wrong to do. But I feel very strongly if I show these pictures now, no one in the world can pay $1 for them. So all the other clowns that took these pictures, their pictures are worthless, okay? So that is my reason for doing this. Now, I would like you to stay. I mean, you're a photographer, and you know that if I show these pictures right now, no one can buy another picture of Diana in the backseat of that car.
And I think the photographer's right for giving them up and not selling them, because if I was a news person, I probably would have had to shoot that. I would have got flack for not doing it, but I probably would not have sold it, especially if I was a part of the chase in that.
Let's clearly state, these pictures were
done.
not purchased. I did not buy them. I had a man fly in here yesterday afternoon who watched our show in London, and he said, Montel, you can do this because you will now take the price out of it. So I want to show the pictures. Can we start it? Where's that?
But it's also a question of how, if once you get involved with it, then you're part of that as well.
I'm not part of this. What I'm doing is I'm taking the money out of this. That's the way I feel about it. So if you want to see them, and if you don't want to, I'm going to tell you these are very, very graphic pictures. So please avert your eyes.
The pictures?
I'm going to show them right now.
Well, I'm sorry. I don't think I can be a part of this. I'm awfully sorry.
Well,
No, I don't want to see
okay,
this.
well then, all right. Well, I'm sorry.
I respect what I do for my job. That's one thing.
Okay.
But for your show to do something like that is even worse than me taking the photo.
Well, I'm sorry.
Really
This is where you guys take these kind of photos. Take a look at the screen.
News. It's news. What you're doing is not news.
It is news. I'm doing this because I want to prove to the news media we can take the dollar bill out of this stuff.
It's not the
You
dollar
leaving too?
bill. It's not the
Okay,
money.
well then
I
hold on a
wouldn't do
minute.
it for the money.
Take a look at the screen,
All right,
ladies and gentlemen.
This. I don't want to see this.
The next picture that you will see will be the picture of Diana and Dodie in the back. Seat of the car. Still looking? Okay, guess what? Stop for a second. I don't have the picture. I'm lying. I'm lying through my teeth. But I will guarantee you, hold on. We bring our panel back because they helped me with this lie. But let me tell you the reason why I just did that. Because I said those words, and everybody sitting at home and everybody sitting in this room, you did not take your eyes off that screen. Everybody at home was waiting for Montel to put that picture up there of Diana laying in the back seat. This is the reason why the paparazzi can do what they do. Thank you for asking that out for me. Thank you. And I know I scared the devil out of you all. And during the commercial break, thank you. During the commercial break, I had to come and explain this to this panel because they all said, I'm not staying if you do this. They were very angry at me. But the reason why I did this is because I wanted to prove a point. At home, just now, all of you who sat there and didn't change the channel, picked up the phone to call your aunt and say, watch Montel right now because they got a picture of Diana. You are the reason why these pictures can be sold.
There's a point that needs to be made about that night, Montel, that
Yes, sir.
people don't know. These photographers were not standing to make that much money. This wasn't about money. People seem to take some comfort in the fact that, you know, they're greedy. No. Just a week before, there was huge spreads of photos of Diana in a bikini kissing him in the water in daylight. There was no way these pictures that they could have gotten of them getting out of a car at night would in any way have fetched that kind of money, less than $1,000.
When I heard yesterday that there was a ring involved, and now I hear that everybody at the hotel knew that Dodie was going to give Princess Diana a ring, And so the photographers were looking to see if they could get a shot of her hand, because I guess now they found the ring in the car.
That's because the hotel called the paparazzi. How do you think they knew they were there? Everyone calls and tells us they want this. Daddy loved the publicity.
Excuse me, how did the paparazzi know what flight I was coming in from Paris?
Let me tell you.
How did they find my house?
Robin.
Somebody called them?
Robin,
Who called them?
do you know what? Airline, Vinny, you'll give us some airline people who work for the airlines. There are photographers who go to the airline counter and slip a person $100 and say there's a magic $100 if you call us for every celebrity that shows up.
But you know something? You don't even have to go as far as that. And when I'm saying this, I'm not saying this in agreement because I had a problem with this. But just recently, I heard that Madonna was going to be moving. Now, I didn't know where she was moving. I really didn't have an interest. And just the other day in a major newspaper, there's a front page, actually second page article that had her new address, and I don't think that those things should go out. But that's not even an issue of paparazzi.
But it is an issue. You brought up a very good issue because I never dealt with this before. My husband and I came home. There were press surrounding us at the airport, surrounding my house, and I had police around my house, and I said, get rid of them. And he said, well, we can only keep them off of your property, but they're not going to go away until they hear what you have to say. And I said, we've told our story in Paris. There were press at the airport. Why does, what else do they want to hear?
All we did was give testimony of facts as we saw them.
But let me do this.
And because of that, my wife and I are now hounded by the very same media in America that surrounded Diana.
I got to take a break, but I'm going to let you say this when you come back, because people are going to say, if you're mad about being hounded, you're on the Montel Williams Show. You have to tell them why you're here when we come back. Let's do that. We'll take a break. And when we also come back, we're going to be joined by an attorney for Mr. Robert De Niro, who dealt with some photographers in an extortion attempt. And he wants to tell you how that came out. We'll take a break. We'll be back right after this.
I have a comment. It is a fact that there are pictures of her dead, and I think that we still shouldn't forget that if the driver was sober, that maybe there would just be pictures of her alive trying to get away from them and her not being dead.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have to remember this could be the biggest campaign against drunk driving ever launched in the world.
That's what those pictures should be used for.
And also, using seatbelts as well. Using seatbelts.
Yes, sir. But again, you can devil's advocate this to death. She wouldn't have had that driver if she wasn't spending the whole evening trying to outrun photographers.
If you've got motorcycles zooming past you, and you know that some of the paparazzi do this, they will try to cut the car off. I got out of an automobile, out of a limo, to go to an event, and I had a guy taking a picture of me. I'm standing there doing exactly what you want me to do. I and my wife stand there, and one guy looks from the corner, who I didn't turn to, and give him the picture. He says, "Hey, Montel, what's it like having that nice piece about my wife?" What did he want? He wanted me to turn with a nasty look on my face so he could get me with a nasty look. They curse. I've had photographers call me the N-word to see what I was doing. He was in the pile. So
in a pile of where the media was, or where the fans were?
He was in the low row of paparazzi.
Yeah,
get out, you're going to the event.
I think that's the difference of going...
Not fair. Not fair. I hate that word, paparazzi. There are people who work for prestigious magazines like In Style, Red Book, Glamour, that have to stand there amid that, and work in that environment. People who will chase you after you leave, but there are those who won't. There are people who have lines.
Well, the ones that call
they
you
won't cross.
names.
Now, I had a conversation once with George Clooney in Malibu. There was a fundraiser, very private affair, and we were just chit-chatting about this very topic. And he told me that one night he came out of a restaurant and there was someone videotaping him and his secretary walking up the street. He'd taken her out, just to be nice, and nothing exciting. So the video person says to him, "Hey, George, who's the fat chick?" He says, "Look what I'm faced with now." He goes, "I have to defend her." He goes, "But if I do, I'm on television the next night."
Absolutely.
Yeah, but that's the difference, Montel.
Yes.
But that's the difference of somebody creating the news.
That is wrong.
That's someone creating the news
wrong.
versus reporting on it.
If that's what you're going to say, then did not the paparazzi that night create this news? They chased her. They tried to run the car off the road. They were trying to circle the car, stop the car from moving, and therefore
if that's what they did, they were wrong. But I don't believe that's what they were doing. I think they were behind the car trying to follow her from point A to point B
think they cut
to
him
get
off.
more pictures.
But it's against the law in France. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's against the law in France
Here it's
for
not.
paparazzi to follow an unwilling victim. If a car
Not
is
here.
trying to speed away, the paparazzi are by law not allowed to follow that car.
Okay.
They are breaking the law, and they should have the full force of the law.
Absolutely.
Because you see, I'm sorry, I think the driver was drunk and should not have been driving the car.
And that's
But I
against the
do
law.
not blame the driver, because I've had chauffeur-driven cars all my life, and I am yet to have a chauffeur who was privately employed by anyone who ever did anything that his employer didn't want.
Did you ever tell him to go 120
And therefore,
miles?
no, absolutely
All right,
not.
wait, I got to take a break. Let me take a break and I'll get your point when we get back. We'll take a
Okay.
break, we'll be back right after this. Hey, if you... Please welcome Mr. Tom Harvey to the show. Tom exposed a scheme by a photographer to extort $300,000 from the actor. What happened, Tom?
Well, essentially, Mr. De Niro, Robert De Niro, was coming out of a restaurant where he went for dinner, and it's not uncommon for people to want to take his photograph, and it is what it is. He walks among the public. He's a New Yorker. A paparazzi, a videorazzi, stuck a camera in his face and came into contact with him. Mr. De Niro simply went home. The paparazzi raced to the station and filed a police report and said Mr. De Niro had struck him. He was arrested. Then the next day I received a call from an attorney representing him saying, listen, if Mr. De Niro doesn't want to go to court, he can pay us some money, $300,000 not to go to court. It was explained to them that's called extortion. Right. That's against the law. And now the interesting thing about the law is handcuffs come in all sizes, and they fit celebrities, but they also fit paparazzi. For the paparazzi here to say there's nothing wrong with chasing someone at 80, 90, 100 miles an hour, it is completely insane. It's wrong. For someone to say,
Who said that?
Did say that.
Nobody said
Vinny
that.
over here said there is nothing wrong with chasing a car in the
Did you say
United
that?
States.
I said that before. I didn't say it on this show. I have chased cars before, and I will probably continue doing it. But if they're going 120 miles an hour, I'm not going to follow. No, my life is worth more than that.
Okay, wait a minute. So tell us what happened, though, Tom.
So essentially, the district attorney opened an investigation, tape recorded some of these demands for money, and subsequently took both the attorney and the paparazzi into custody. The more telling point was when they were released that night, the paparazzi was back out, videotaping other celebrities, hoping to cause news. Not record news, cause news.
And that's what it's going to be. And these guys with the video
That's what we
cameras...
discussed before.
Well, you know,
didn't
the
we?
guys with the video cameras are really a mess now. I mean, you get off an airplane in Los Angeles and you're a celebrity. They're waiting there for you because somebody's tipped them off that you're on the flight. I don't care if it's red or not. Get off the plane, you know, you're like groggy like this, you know, you got stuff hanging out your face because you got that stuff on the side of your mouth. You know, you're walking down going like this. Next thing you know, there's a camera. And when I say the camera, let me show you where the camera's at. The camera goes like this. Hey, Montel, how you doing? What's going on with you?
Right,
And
but if it's not exciting enough, they'll incite you to react.
You know, there is a distinction between, you know, reporting, you know, the news or creating the news too.
Absolutely.
And I think there's a lot of us who know that.
And there are good photographers out there. There are good journalists out there.
Right,
There are good reporters out there who do it right. But the problem is, what are we going to do? Do we need to have laws change?
Montel, you know, I think the very large issue here today is that a celebrity, going part and parcel with being a celebrity, means that the public has a want and a need to know, which the paparazzi and the media feed on. And I guess on one hand, we have to deal with that. However, the real issue has to do with the fact that does any child or any relative of a deceased person, whether that child be the future king of England or just your regular average kid, does that child need to know that pictures of his dead mother will one day surface, and you know they're going to surface any time now, within the next week.
Those pictures will be, if they're not in a tabloid, they will be in a dirty magazine or something else. You know, there's not a celebrity on this planet, maybe Michael Jackson for a while, who understands what Diana goes through. Because that's the only other celebrity that's been photographed and hounded that way. And no matter what the problem is or the new story about Michael is, they still hound him that way overseas. I got to take a break, lady. I'll get you right in, Georgia. I want to come back. We'll be back right after this. Now, Vinny, you made a point during the commercial break that some of the pictures that may start surfacing were taken by who?
Tourists going through the tunnel. The videotape was from tourists that already came out and sold it, and the pictures. The French police have the pictures from those paparazzis.
You know, I had a camera as I was going through the tunnel.
And you didn't take a picture?
The worst thing you have to think of is to take a picture of a tragic accident.
But you know what? But you're that one person who didn't. Other people going through that same tunnel who were tourists just like you want to make a buck.
No, they didn't know.
I can't imagine
No, I don't think they knew. I don't think they knew.
You don't think they knew?
We were coming from
But
the
you know
other
what?
way. That
But
was the only way
even if they
open.
didn't know, people think to themselves, you know what? Geez, I'm going through a terrible accident. I'm in Paris. Look at that terrible accident. Look at that terrible. Oh, geez, a lady hanging in there.
Well, you know, if you keep
There's a
giving
guy.
price tags of $500,000 for a picture, you're going to have every member of your viewing audience taking photographs. They're going to take their cameras
Absolutely.
with them.
Not if they've got Hold on, yes, Georgia.
I don't find it particularly objectionable that someone happens across a news story and takes advantage of it. What I find deeply objectionable, and I see it now in the British press, is that they're now rounding on the royal family and unfairly, and they're creating another news story, which is that the royal family are to blame, and the royal family haven't, even though they've given Diana a state funeral, they're trying to say which she's not entitled to. No, any junior member of the royal family. And you know, they've been rounding on the royal family, and the press has a need to create destructive stories without being fair or responsible, and that's it.
And
that's the line. Responsibility, constructiveness, yes.
I got to take a break.
Destructiveness, no.
I've got 15 seconds before I take this break, but everybody has been saying, what's young William going to do? What's he going to do? As if we care about young William, and at the same time, tomorrow, during his funeral, when he walks behind his mother's coffin, everybody's going to have cameras shoved right up his nose, and they're going to be trying their best and screaming things out at him to see if he'll look their way, as if you really care. If you cared, leave him alone. It's a child who lost his mother. I got to take a break. I'll be back right after this. Topic to be discussed for the next 6 or 7 months. And on Monday, you get an opportunity to see the brand new season of the Montel Williams Show. I hope you appreciated today's show. We appreciated bringing it to you. I want to thank all of our guests for being here. Jack, Robin, Georgia, Vinny, Ron, Diane, and Tom. I'm going to tell you that I think what we all need to do, just like when I showed you that little picture and I said, I've got pictures, look back and think about yourself. If you were staring at that screen, you were part of the reason why these pictures can be sold. Join us on the next Montel Williams Show.